Our third speaker today is another friend from my Aspen world and co-winner of the John P. McNulty Prize, Bart Houlahan, co-founder of B Labs. B Labs started in 2006, which Bart co-founded with his colleagues J. Coen Gilbert and Andrew Kassoy. B Labs is a non-profit organization ensuring business becomes a force for good as certified B Corps. Bart is a Henry Crown Fellow at the Aspen Institute and a recipient of the 2014 Skoll Award for Social Entrepreneurship. When global leaders like Emmanuel Faber, CEO of Danone, stand on public stage and say their aspiration is to get Danone fully certified as a B Corp by 2025, B Labs and Bart need no further introduction. Please welcome Bart Houlahan.
Greetings from Philadelphia. My name is Bart Houlahan. I am one of the co-founders of B Lab. B Lab is the nonprofit behind the B Corporation movement. For those of you who don't know the B Corporation movement, we're a community of business leaders who are trying to build a movement of people using business as a force for good. Our vision is in a generation's time to create a more equitable, inclusive, and regenerative economy, one that works for everyone. Our approach is really straightforward. We find leaders, best-in-class companies whom we certify as B corporations. The B stands for the benefit that they create for all stakeholders. To certify as a B corporation, you have to do three things. You have to take and pass an impact assessment that evaluates your impact on the community, your workers, the environment, your governance practices, and your consumers. Secondly, you need to make sure that that commitment to stakeholders is built to last through a legal change. You have to amend your corporate governing documents to include the interests of all stakeholders and be accountable to them. Third and finally, you have to be transparent. You have to share not only your areas of excellence, but also your areas for improvement. If you do those three things, you can join this community of leaders. We have about 3,600 certified B corporations from 150 different industries, 80 different countries. The commonality is they're all using business as a force for good. They range from multi-billion-dollar companies down to sole proprietors, some that you would know, Danone North America, the dairy giant, Patagonia, the outdoor apparel maker, Natura Cosmetics out of Sao Paulo, the cosmetic conglomerate that owns both Body Shop and Avon, or Kickstarter. Just some examples of our community. And our job at B Lab is to shine a light on those leaders and encourage others to follow. And we provide tools for companies to be more like a B corporation. The impact assessment we use for certification, well, it's a public good. It's free and available for anybody to use. It includes best practice guides and the ability to set targets so that you can confidentially measure, manage, and improve your social and environmental performance. More than 130,000 companies have now used that tool as a roadmap or a guideline to improve their practices. The second scaling tool that we provide is that legal framework that we require all certified B corporations to adopt. Well, it turns out in many jurisdictions around the globe, it is against current corporate law to consider the interest of stakeholders. And so we had to pass a new legally recognized corporate form, something called the Benefit Corporation. We've passed that in about 6 countries and 40 states here in the U.S. And it changes fiduciary duty so that companies are legally accountable to consider all stakeholders. There are now more than 10,000 companies globally that have become benefit corporations. Right now, the momentum in this movement is overwhelming. Our registrations are up year over year by 80%. Demand from multinationals is greater than ever before. And I think you can trace that back to three fundamental existential threats facing the business sector. First is climate change. Clearly, climate change is accelerating and placing true risks to the business community that haven't been felt before. Secondly, rising inequality. Inequality is not new, but it is clearly accelerating. Currently, sadly, 2/3 of the world's population owns less than 3% of its assets. And so, though we have faced inequality for millennia, it is acute currently. And third and finally, this pandemic. The global pandemic has laid bare the inequities of our current system. And more we hear from business leaders and governmental leaders that we're not trying to return to normal, but when we come out of this pandemic, we need to create a new normal. And so I guess what I would ask all of you today is, how are you going to engage in this movement? I would tell you that more and more your consumers are going to demand it of you. They are expecting business globally to balance social interests with business interests. Your workers are going to demand authentic engagement. And so not only is this going to be the right thing for you to do from a business perspective, I would tell you it's also a moral imperative. The threats we face are profound and require the private sector to engage to a greater degree. So I hope you all will join us. Thank you again for having me, and enjoy the rest of your conference.